Welcome back to the Snite Museum of Art. My name is Joe Becker, and I'm honored to serve as your director. Today, we're standing downstairs on the first floor in the Mesoamerican Gallery, and in a very special part of that gallery that we've set aside specifically for our collection of Spanish colonial art. Behind me is one of the most familiar images in the entire collection. It's familiar even to those that may have never visited the museum. This is our version of the Virgin of Guadalupe, and it dates to the 18th century. Why is it so familiar? Well, this is a painting that is based on legacy and based on love. I'd like to take a moment and go through the painting, explore it with you, and then talk about a very special connection to another interpretation of this very subject over in the Basilica. Let me step out of the way so you can see the painting more clearly. In order to most fully appreciate this painting, maybe a few moments to tell you the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. According to tradition, in 1531, an Aztec convert to Christianity, a man by the name of Juan Diego, encountered the Virgin standing on a crescent moon, supported by an angel, and wearing a crown. She was surrounded by the radiance of the sun. She was glowing. Above her hovered a dove representing the Holy Spirit. The image that we see here is based on one that was first created in 1668. Throughout the century and into the next century, dozens of images of our Virgin of Guadalupe became a popular object of devotion, and her likeness can be seen in churches across Mexico, the United States, the Spanish-speaking world, and now, truly, all across the globe. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the image, our painting dates to February 15th of 1729. It's therefore a rather early rendering of the subject. And it was done by a very talented painter. If we concentrate on Mary for just a minute, you can see in the image of the face and in the images of the hands, he was very concerned with the illusion of light and shadow. You can see as you study the overall figure, he had a very good handle on proportion. There is even a delightful sensation of movement as her left leg seems to take a slight move forward and part of her robe flaps back. In some ways, this image is very familiar to those of us that study art history because it's so closely related to the works by Spanish masters that were active in Europe at this time period and immediately preceding. Images of Mary standing on the crescent moon, glowing, crowned, cloaked in a robe illustrated with stars, are not uncommon. However, images of Guadalupe are different because they connect to a miraculous apparition, yes, but because that apparition turned into a work of art. Let's take a look at the four stories in the four corners of the image. In the top left-hand side, we see an image of Juan Diego. He's dressed very simply and guided by an angel. There is that vision of Guadalupe, which mirrors that which we see in the overall canvas, appearing miraculously before him. Up in the sky, there is an opening and a shaft of light representing the voice, the power of the divine. Step 1. In this vision, the Virgin asked for a chapel to be built in her honor on the hill of Tepeyac. In the second scene, we see Juan Diego again. So to the angel, so to the vision of the Virgin and the shaft of light above. This is after Juan Diego went to the local bishop to inquire about having this chapel built, but was turned down. What's fascinating about this image is, as a mirror reflection, it serves as a kind of bracket to the image at the left-hand side and very beautifully frames the uppermost part of our painting. The Virgin appears a third time to Juan Diego, and in this instance, she asks him to complete a very specific task. She asks him to gather together in his cloak a bunch of flowers that are blooming from the top of the hill. Here he is on bended knee. The angel appears once again, the vision before him. But if you look very closely, you can see his cloak has been removed and he's very protectively gathering the flowers. In the fourth and final scene, we have the moment after the flowers have been collected. Mary asks that these be put in the cloak, and then the cloak be presented to the bishop. Over in that final scene, the cloak is unveiled, the flowers are gone, and the image of Mary, as we've come to know her as Guadalupe, has been emblazoned. The bishop falls to his knees, and the desire for a chapel to be built on the hill becomes a reality. This image is instructional. It helps us to understand, yes, the central image of the Virgin, helps us to understand also the many stages that led up to the creation of the image. Before we leave this image behind, two additional things to share. First, take a careful look at the garland of flowers that surround the Virgin. They are Castilian roses, and of course, they refer back to those flowers that were gathered by Juan Diego. But they twist and turn. There's wonderful movement. There's rich visual delight. They are almost a kind of chorus that celebrates, in the stillness of the scene, the power and the legacy of Mary. The second thing that I wanted to point out were the details, especially in the attire of Mary. There are these extraordinary stars which refer to the heavens. They also refer to a concept of Mary as the Stella Maris, or the Star of the Sea, as a protector of sailors and travelers. But there's also this incredible patterning, this detail that really delights the eye and serves as a great resource as you're studying, contemplating this image. Before we leave Our Lady of Guadalupe behind, let's think about legacy. Legacy, wherein you find reproductions of this painting literally all over the world. Legacy that also continues to inspire artists to work in a tradition that honors the story of Guadalupe. For this, we head to the Basilica. One of my favorite images among many that are housed in our basilica on the campus of Notre Dame is this splendid work by Maria Tomasula, also depicting Our Lady of Guadalupe. Maria is a much beloved and highly regarded painter and professor here in our Department of Art History and Design. This work dates to 2008 and was made possible by a grant from Bob and Pat Kill. The connections to the Guadalupe painting from 1729 in the museum are perhaps obvious. Mary is central. An angel is at her feet. She is surrounded by roses. Even the oval-like handling of space as material is parted calls to mind the image in the museum. There is legacy here. There is tradition here. Even some of the elements, like the details, the star and the robe, register as familiar. But there is splendid, luxurious invention. Look at the way that Tomasula has handled material. The robe, Mary's garment, the individual petals of the flowers, even the curtains are lush. She delights in light and shadow, and there is a suggestion of movement. You almost feel the form fluttering before you. Look at the intensity of the color. The pinks, the golds, the lavenders, the passages where greens transition into blue. There is a vibrancy here. There is an immediacy here. That is quite unlike the piece in the museum. If I were to add one additional thing, look at Mary's face, her hands, even that of the angelic host that supports her. These seem as real individuals. Individuals like those we may pass on the street, see in the store, cross on campus. Tomasula has done something truly extraordinary, not just creating an image that is rich and visually vibrant, but giving us something that is familiar. It is in some ways the divine made real. In all of this, what's not to love? Just as in the image of the museum, what's not to love? There's tradition, there's history, there's presence. The Virgin of Guadalupe. I hope when you're back on campus, you have an opportunity to come over to the museum and see our painting from the early 18th century and spend some time in the Basilica enjoying the masterpiece by Maria Tomasula. Take care.